Hi, I'm Bob Langer, host of Antiques, Art, and Valuables. Today we have a very special segment on art. The good, the bad, the ugly. We have Fern Samuels, Robert Berger, and Charlene Gordon. Charlene, what is good art? How would you define art that is good?
That's a tough question, but I think basically it's a creative type of expression. It can start any time with a little child picking up crayons and drawing a picture on a piece of paper. It could be an artist who's painting on canvas. It could be a sculptor who is picking up clay or metal and working with it to create sculpture. It could be a designer of shoes, designer of clothes, an architect designing a building. So I think art covers a very wide field, and in every case, it's expressing their feelings about what they do.
Bob, do you feel art is everything that we look at?
Well, it is everything we look at, and things that, and good art is what you perceive of what you're looking at. If it looks pleasant to you, then it's good art. If it offends you, it still may be good art, but it's offensive good art.
Fern, have you ever seen offensive art or bad art?
I have seen what I consider to be bad art, but many times I change my mind. There's a Boston museum for bad art, and that's their picks of bad art, and I would say I would have to know the intention of the artist and what they're trying to say before I would consider anything bad art.
But if those artworks are covered by the definition which Charlene gave us, would they be bad? Would it be considered bad art? If it went by the criteria of the description provided by Charlene?
No, it wouldn't. I think that my own personal opinion would be that I would have to know the artist's background, all the other pieces of art that they have created, before I would make a decision on whether this is good or bad.
Webster's Dictionary describes art as follows. It's decorative or illustrative elements in printed matter. It is a craft, a handicraft, a trade. It is devised with ingenuity, skill, and cunning. Nothing about whether it is a development by a human being. Have you ever seen art created by a monkey or an elephant?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
what do you think of it? Bob?
Well, I think some of the elephant art sells very well, but that's marketing. And what we're really looking at are shape relationships and color relationships. Are they pleasing to me, or is this just a gimmick that somebody says, well, it's made by an elephant, so it must be good?
Charlene?
Well, I would feel that I've seen work by gorillas, monkeys, and I really think some of them are beautifully done, great color, as a piece of abstract art. Were they emotionally involved in it? No, they picked up that brush, and in a way they just went across the canvas or whatever they did. But in the finale, it looked good to some people and some people not. Again, when we talk about art, is it good or bad? I believe it truly is in the eyes of those who look at it and behold it. An exhibit at the Chicago Art Institute of Chicago and Vicinity Show rejected a piece of art one year by an artist because the jury didn't like it. The next year, the artist put the same piece in, but a different jury, and it won a prize. So it really is in the eyes of the beholders who look at the art.
All right.
I was thinking about children's art, and many times I go to the children's museums or where children are producing art, And I look at the freedom and the freedom of these little children, usually maybe 5 or 6 or 7 is a wonderful age where they just put on the paint and whatever comes out, they like. And I've tried to make that my policy. It's very difficult when you've been trained.
Bob, you provided me with some photographs which you had taken in Belgium. What do you see in that from a perspective of art?
Well, as I entered the room,
Yes.
there was an entire room, and it was a fairly good-sized room, with wool and skeins of wool and bolts of cord and colored cord and all spread out throughout the room. There was a little mirror ball in the middle, a lot of empty beer bottles. It was an installation by an artist, and this fellow whose museum actually was his collection in a warehouse had this whole room dedicated to this one piece of art.
What was your first impression?
I think he was taken.
You think he was?
I think he was suckered into that baby. But
Okay.
but that's why I was in Belgium trying to understand
Yes.
cutting edge contemporary art. Because I have friends that are collectors of this, and I'm trying to understand why.
Okay.
I would like to say something about this particular piece because, in my opinion, it's very, very, very good in my eye. And one of the reasons is the height of the objects is all varied, and the colors are really carried around just like you would do in an abstract painting. And I view this as a painting, and a good one.
I'd like to look at picture B, which looks to me as if it was taken out of Hitchcock's Psycho. It appears that there is a figure in a rocking chair covered with some kind of shroud, and I'd like your opinion on whether you consider this, what kind of art do you consider this to be, and how does this affect you? Fern?
It's a very somber piece. It does affect me because I think whenever you have a figure in art, you get a certain feeling. What is the figure trying to say to you, and so forth. It's very dark, and I would find this to be very, very nice.
Charlene?
Well, I look at this piece and I find it depressing. It would not be something that I would want to be around or live with, but then it perhaps has some of my emotions that come into this piece, and that's how I think people look at art. The first piece that we looked at with the pieces
Yarn.
on the floor, I found were very pleasant. I could think about taking colors and putting them in different places on the floor and winding yarn around. And that, in a sense, is very creative. This piece here maybe is creative in the sense that they took the figure and covered it like this and piled up, but it doesn't do anything for me. So is it good, bad, or indifferent art? I would have trouble deciding because I don't see it as a good composition. I don't find anything that I would want to live with.
Bob, you were there.
Well, this was
And
in
you
the
walked in
entryway.
there.
Correct.
And you took the photo.
Right. This was in the entryway going into the same man's collection.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually had mirrors on 2 of the walls. Close to you in this picture is a shopping cart filled with stuff
Mm-hmm.
and bound together, and then you had this figure against the wall. Initially, I was taken aback, and then I looked at it more. The more I looked at it, the more I liked it as an installation.
What was the artist trying to tell us about this?
I don't know.
So despite
But
the
each
fact...
of us will pull whatever we relate to it in our own way. We're not, maybe it's what the artist meant, maybe it's not. But, I thought it was very interesting, especially as an entryway piece.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about the urinal by Michel Duchamp as an art object and as something that you would put in a living room, not a bathroom, living room, He made it because he felt it was intellectually honest for him. I'd like your opinions.
Well, first of all, once you take something out of its natural context and put it and make it a piece of art, it becomes very different. Then you view it as a piece of art that I enjoy very much. I enjoy the symmetry of it. I enjoy and I enjoy all the rest of it, the curving, and I don't think of it as a urinal. It's now something.
You both feel the same way, or there are
Well, I think he
differences of
started
opinion?
something that was very, very unique for that time, because up till then, ready-made objects or objects that were utilitarian were not considered art.
Yeah.
And he took this urinal, luckily it was a clean urinal, and signed it, brought it to the show, and entered it in the show, and everybody was aghast that what's he trying to do? But in actuality, the ready-made branch of art became very big over time.
I'd like to skip over to art which may be offensive. Charlene, you've seen the Andre Serrano
Yes.
Kiss Christ,
Yes,
which was a plastic crucifix
yes.
placed in urine, which I particularly find highly offensive. There was Alphonse D'Amato, Senator of New York, did not want it shown at the Brooklyn Museum. I happen to have agreed with him. But that brings in art and censorship. What are your thoughts on censoring art of this nature?
This is a really big, major problem because an artist has created something that was meaningful to them, but which goes back to the expression of the artist and what he was feeling. Now, any subject you take, there might be somebody who finds it offensive. And this affected a tremendous amount of people of a particular religion. There have been other pieces where it's a naked body in a particular pose that has been offensive to some other group. You will always find something like that would happen. We have a sculpture garden in Flossmoor, Illinois. We chose a piece of sculpture that we thought was terrific. He never told us the name of it. And it was built of many crosses going up, and then he called it crucis, and he called it a religious figure. It caused such a sensation at our board meetings because different religious groups, atheist groups said, why do you have something like that in our village? So you're always going to get something. There was a piece at the Museum of Contemporary Art by Charles Ray of male figures lying on the ground doing all sorts of things. People responded in a very negative way because they didn't want to bring their children in to see it. So where I thought they were beautiful.
Fern, I'm sure you have some comments regarding Serrano's work.
I do. I have something to talk about as far as the Piss Christ goes, and that is all the copyists that have done Piss Christ. And from what I've gathered from the magazines that I know about, Art in America, Art News, there's probably about at least 5 or 6 people that have copied this. And I consider those people to be copyists and not worth very much, really, in my opinion, because the person who does the first original piece is the one who should get credit.
But are the copyists good copyists? Is that good art?
Yes, they're good copyists.
But you'd call
Are
it good
they
art?
good art? I'm not sure about that because they're now copying somebody else's work.
Would you call it bad art?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Bob?
Well, I'm going to play in a little bit on what was said. A lot of contemporary art today is conceptual art. The idea that an artist conceives this series of numbers or this elements or these elements go together to make a piece of art. This is similarly related. Yes, the first person thought of doing the Christ in the urine. But sometimes they do art like this because a borderline, someone that's not known too well or someone that would like to be known better will do a piece of art that evokes a tremendous response to it. And all of a sudden they're famous.
Do you think that a piece of art like this should be shown in museums, like the Brooklyn Museum, which is financed by public funds and taxpayer money?
I think a piece of art could and should be shown wherever it can be shown.
Despite its offensiveness?
No, because almost every piece of art will offend someone in some way. They don't like blue. They were really partial to yellows. They don't like that relationship between something, or those shapes offend them. It depends on the degree of how they're offended. If it's religion, that's another story. Because
Well, this is religious.
Is it?
I think so.
Because it
This
has a
Christ?
figure that's a religious figure?
I feel that way.
Maybe the cross.
I feel a crucifix?
Yeah.
You don't think
Yeah.
that's a religious?
Did you see anybody
symbol?
riot in the streets or burn anyone or kill anyone on
I don't think we
riding a
have
motorbike?
to. I don't think we have to understand what's offensive.
Well, the question is, what degree of offense is there?
Well, should it be funded with public money?
We use public money to fund a lot of things that are offensive.
If the protocols of the elders of Zion were to be taught in public schools, would you find that offensive? Would you censor something like that?
I personally wouldn't censor anything. I think people should be educated in everything.
So you wouldn't
So
censor
they can make
that?
their own decisions as to what they find offensive and non-offensive.
So you wouldn't object to that?
I don't object to anything.
So that or Mein Kampf,
I-
you would be
I
perfectly
think
willing?
you have to, but you have to balance out. Teach everything.
Everything.
Teach everything.
And what are your
Don't do the
thoughts?
propaganda and just teach what you think is the appropriate thing to teach, as we do in our country.
What are your feelings, Charlene?
That's a tough question again, because a curator has a responsibility not only to the museum, but to the community and the people who live there. And if you are going to put very offensive work in, it creates a very negative feeling. And in many cases, donors have taken their money out of a museum because they felt that a religious item was offensive to them. And I would not like to be in that position. I would hate to see anything that has to be censored for a reason. But then again, if it offended me, maybe I would feel differently. So it's a tough one.
So it's a question of whose ox is gored?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the work by Christopher O'Feely, the Virgin Mary. He painted the Virgin Mary and then took elephant dung and flung it on the canvas. Do any of you find that offensive?
No,
Why not?
because I think that the artist should express himself in any way that he possibly can. And I don't find this picture offensive at all. And I would probably want to know, what is the artist thinking and why did he throw elephant dung on it?
But does it make a difference what he was thinking? The fact is, he threw elephant dung on a painting of the Virgin Mary. Do you find that offensive?
No.
Okay, Robert?
It's no different than putting Christ in piss.
Mm-hmm.
It's, it's not really, to me, it's the artist expressing himself in some way, as the other artist did too. And, would you find pictures of the Holocaust offensive? Or shouldn't people learn about the camps and the ovens and all of that? Yeah, they
Well,
should.
I feel different. I feel much
I
differently
think that
about
they should learn about it.
I think these are offensive pieces of art, and I would like your opinion.
They are offensive. They're offensive to the people who believe strongly in their religion or any other situation that takes place. But in interviewing him at the time, he said that the animal dung represented something good in his culture and that he didn't think it was meant to be offensive to Virgin Mary or the Catholic religion.
Should a work of art like this be shown in a museum situated in a city where the people are highly religious.
Yes,
Why?
because they do not have to come to that museum to see the piece of art. And others who are interested in the art should be allowed. You see, I'm for no forms of censorship.
So you don't feel anything should be censored?
No.
What about military secrets affecting the security of the United States?
That's a different thing.
Ah, but you don't believe in censorship. So some
Well,
things you
that-
believe in censorship.
No, that's not true.
That's
So-
not censorship.
That's right.
That's not
That's
censorship.
security. That's something very different than talking about a piece of art. A piece of art is not going to hurt anybody. I mean, I don't see anybody taking a gun out once they've seen a piece of art.
Bob,
Well, I could see taking a knife out and slashing the canvas, but not a gun.
people have done that.
People have done that, and people
Yeah,
have made
that's
art with guns as well. I mean, Nikki
Sure.
DeSaint did all these pictures with shooting balloons full of paint on canvases. So
Oh.
the element used to make the canvas isn't bad in itself. And then state secrets or military secrets are not censorship.
Charlene?
There's really a fine line in this. I don't believe in censorship for art. But then again, if I find that it is really upsetting to a very large group, then I have to think about it a little bit. Would I show this piece? Again, I say I don't believe in censorship, but look, here comes something that is upsetting to a whole group of people, and I would have to think about it.
They
What
don't have
about-
to look at it.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, these people do not have to look at the art.
What about the video of Mohammed, which started a worldwide furor?
Which didn't last very long, the worldwide furor, other than the political aspects of it.
Other
And
than the
Benghazi
burning and the
and
killing.
Benghazi had nothing to do with
They
the video.
Was that, I don't recall it being censored on YouTube.
It was
was
on
not.
YouTube for months before this whole thing happened. And the real thing that set it off really was 9/11. It was the anniversary. It was time to do some sort of event because it was 9/11.
Now, in the not the Manchester Guardian, the Sunday Times of London had a cartoon showing Netanyahu building a wall with the blood and bodies of Palestinians, for which Rupert Murdoch apologized. Should he have apologized? Should he have left it there as simply a political statement or as a work of art?
It's a very tough question, Bob. I do not have the answer to that.
Robert?
Yeah, I think it's a cartoonist political expression, and that's how it should have been labeled, as a person's political expression. Should they have balanced it out with another cartoon? I don't know. I'm not.
Any apology for showing it?
I don't think he had to apologize for showing it. I think the editor would have to answer to his boss.
Charles?
I found that very disturbing. I am Jewish. I believe in what Israel is trying to do, and to make a statement like that, I found causes a lot of problems, a lot of hatred, and a lot of anger. Should it be censored? Yeah, I really felt it should have been thought about a little bit better. That was a bad thing to do.
We'll leave it at that. Well, thank you all for viewing. Thank you all for watching Channel 63. If any of you have any comments or any suggestions or any questions, by all means, contact Micah. This is Bob Langer signing off for another segment of Art, Antiques, and Valuables. Thank you very much.